5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire. The only thing we have to fear is fear.
Mile 18.
This is Endurance Nation.
Free resource alert. Did you know that Endurance Nation created the 4 keys of racing execution? That's right, the seminal framework that people use to put structure into an otherwise unorganized and chaotic race day. We created it back in 2009. I've been honing that process ever since across all manner of sport and work as well. Our athletes use it in all aspects of their lives. It's an opportunity for you to use a framework that boils down the most complex situations into critical steps that you can follow and prepares you for the challenges that exist on race day. We have this framework. It's available for you. It's free. You can actually go online. If you go to endurancenation.us/4 keys, that's all written out, FOUR keys. You'll get an opportunity to download a free resource that explains the 4 keys to you, including a video from me, Coach Patrick, outlining how you can use it and opportunities to access even deeper resources down the line. This is your chance to break out of the chaos. If you've had bad races, messed up races, made simple mistakes, really wish when you cross the finish line that you can get that 30 minutes back, now you can. Plan ahead. Get the 4 keys at endurancenation.us/4 keys.
Endurance Nation.
So what are some of the symptoms that you're heading into this situation? What are some of the warning signs or the red flags that you need to be aware of as you are going through your year? And these are the signs that will help when you need to tap the brakes, okay? So we'll go through them here just really quickly. I'll pull out a few for highlights. These are some key ones for me. Difficulty sleeping, super early warning sign for me. The difficulty sleeping isn't difficulty falling asleep. It's the restlessness when I'm sleeping and also just getting super hot. Like metabolically, I just get super hot at night when I'm doing a lot of training. And that's a red flag for me that I'm pushing my physical limits because my body is still processing and doing work even when I'm at full rest in the evening. The plateaued progress, this is a pretty easy one. That's where you're just not seeing numbers change. You're running week after week, riding week after week, hitting your intervals, doing your work, but you're not getting any stronger despite the work. And in fact, sometimes you'll even see some dips down, right? Where you're actually almost, it seems like you're getting less strong for the same amount of work, and it's confusing. I don't mean that your test goes from 200 watts to 195 watts and you're like, I must be overtrained. Like you're out doing your lone bike ride or your lone run or your tempo run, and you're in your 4th or 5th week. And the first week you ran it at 9-minute miles, and the second week you ran it at like 850 minute per mile, and the third week you ran it like 848. That's great. And the 4th week now you're back up at 858. And you're like, wait a minute, I'm not staying stronger. I'm actually losing speed over the course of this run. And a significant block, not just 1 mile, but a significant block enough to stand out. So you're plateauing a little bit. Next one, this is a really easy tell from one of our athletes. The emotional instability. You just lose your temper. You get frustrated. That same type of stress that may affect you at work or in a dynamic situation at home also manifests itself with your training. You're just run down. You're a little short with yourself. You're frustrated with what's happening. You're not seeing the numbers that you want on the dial, and you know it's not working for you. It's very easy to fall into this emotional instability, just lash out, be grumpy even sometimes. And so your friends and family might actually notice this one first before you even do. Elevated RPE, this is super important. As you're going out doing your steady state ride, you're like, I'm going to ride in zone 1, so you're riding in zone 1. This is the case where you're checking your heart rate monitor, checking your power meter, not checking the tire. You're looking at it being like, is this for real? It feels like zone 3 right now. It's supposed to be zone 2, but it feels like zone 3. What's going on? My zone's off? Like, what's happening? And so when you feel that excessive fatigue, another clear sign that whatever you're doing during the week or whatever you've been doing over the course of a few weeks has manifested itself to a place where right now, this Saturday, this Sunday, this Friday, whatever it may be, you just don't have the juice. Your fatigue is real there. And as a result, you've got to be careful. You'll notice it also with an erratic morning heart rate or disrupted heart rate variability. I'll put these two sort of side by side. Your typical morning metrics that you'll look at, say you're in a normal window, like 45 to 50 beats per minute or 52 beats per minute. And all of a sudden you're starting to notice those numbers are creeping up. Or maybe it's 54 one day and then 46 the next day and then 53. You see a lot more variability in these numbers than you normally would. That oscillation, that situation, and the deviation in those lines is really a sign that your body's trying to fight to get back to normal, to homeostasis, and it's having a tough time because of the fatigue you're in. So those are also warning signs. Not that a 54 or 46 is good or bad, but the fact that you have a baseline trajectory for these numbers and now you're outside the lines, you're coloring outside the lines, you're ruining the picture with your coloring. What are you doing? Put the crayon down. All of that shows up as a problem for you. We see decreased workout performance. I mentioned this in terms of the plateaued progress, but here specifically what I'm talking about is that you just can't put the workouts together. right? So you've got a brick workout like a bike run or a swim bike or some combination, or you're putting together a Tuesday, Thursday session, you're having a tough time just putting those whole workouts together. You need to shut it down in the middle. So it's not even that you can't hit your numbers. You're doing the workouts, but in this case, the numbers, you need to stop. You're like, I need to add more rest in here. I can't keep up this effort. I was doing 4 by 5 minutes last week. This week, I'm on my 3rd, 5th minute, and I need to take a break. I need to add extra rest in here. That's that decreased workout performance I'm talking about. Yeah, this lethargy, low motivation, I touched on this earlier. But again, this is one of those sort of early insidious signs when you've got a long workout on the weekend or a quality session during the week and you're dreading it. If you're just really dreading it, and sometimes some people just dread certain sessions. I get that. Like swim sessions for me, like hard swim sessions, no thank you. Super dread. But if you have a workout that you normally love and now all of a sudden you're not looking forward to it, that's a sign. Don't ignore that sign. There's something coming for you. That's like a tick in the note box to be like, I got to check on this on the weekend, see if I bounce back, see if I feel better about it next week. If it's 2 weeks in a row and you're missing that mojo, it's time to go back and take a look at the structure every week. More on that later. And then last but not least, just increase susceptibility to illness and injury. So you'll start to notice that like your legs are aching a bit more, your joints might be aching a bit more. This may be more of a manifestation of an extreme ramp rate, but regardless, it's a sign that you are more susceptible to accruing damage, accruing fatigue. Ironically, as the fatigue sets in, as your biomechanics break down, you actually start to accumulate even more fatigue rapidly with poor technique and less time to recover. It begins to exponentially get out of control, which is, again, something that really makes you more susceptible to this injury. We have to be really super careful about it here. Some of the causes, because people always ask, okay, I got the signs. Well, what's the cause? And the reason why we want to know the root cause is that once we know what the root cause of the situation is, then we can get back and say, how do I fix this in the course of my season? What are the things I can turn on or turn off to make sure that my season is better? So number one, and I put this at the top because it's just the number one killer, it's monotony. You've just been doing the same workout plans for the same year after year. You use your favorite plan every year. You dust it off, pull out that favorite training plan. Like I'm going to do this for my marathon again, or do this for my century route again. You do the same thing every year, time and time again. That monotony is like riding into a rut. There's some comfort associated with it because you know what to do, but there's also a real risk in that monotony that you're going to hit yourself. You're going to put yourself into a position where you're going to plateau again. And actually the mental fatigue and the boring element of it sets in sooner than the physical manifestation. And then soon after you'll have that physical problem. The next piece here, one of the favorites of mine, one of the favorites of my wife who loves to remind me, I'm getting inadequate sleep, right? So you have your own baseline of what good sleep is versus bad. When you're into heavy training, we recommend that you target 8 hours. You get plus or minus half an hour, somewhere in there is great. But inadequate sleep is one of the top predictors of the mid-season slump and one of the top causes as well. Work-life stressors, without a doubt, massive. I skipped the weather. We'll come back to the weather. Work-life stressors are huge. Most people only look at their training and the impact of their work from training. But in reality, there's all sorts of other factors in your life that affect you. Your work, your relationships, your life at home, financial situation, friends, social commitments, etc. All those elements can be additive and subtractive to where you are. And that sometimes there's a couple of them fall into that negative column. And that can really stress you out, irrespective of your actual training. Training might be great, but if the rest of your life is in a tough spot, that can be really hard. I mentioned, I'll go back to weather instability. Sounds crazy, but if you've got a really bad winter, or you're just having a bad spring and you just can't get outside, you've been looking towards the finish line to get off the trainer or to get off the treadmill and get outside, and now you don't have it, or you have to go back in and out all the time, that instability can actually be really detrimental to your overall well-being. We don't work well. We have to go back and forth and we get something outside time and then we lose it inside time. Outside time, inside time. It becomes a little like evil Pavlovian messing with your reward system, and as a result can really set you off. So weather instability is in fact a factor. Lack of plan flexibility, this leads a little bit to the monotony side, but when I say plan flexibility, I mean that you don't have either power over your training plan like we talk about inside the team, or you're uncomfortable adjusting your training plan. And as a result, you're just following this plan, like we like to say inside the team, into a brick wall, and you're going to have a problem. The plan itself is not going to adapt. You need to adapt around the constraints of the plan and how you're responding, which is very important. So at the end of the day, we always want to encourage you as an athlete to remember, you're in control. You're holding the steering wheel. You choose the plan. You choose how you interpret your daily workouts. You've got the numbers and the metrics on your dashboard. Those are the tools you use to make decisions that will help you up for success. Okay. I mentioned earlier, aggressive ramp rates. This is just getting too excited or maybe signing up for a race late, putting yourself in trouble. Poor workout nutrition for sure, especially when we get in season. particularly after we get to that ramp or we're getting that race period. Athletes are minding body composition. If that bleeds over into the rest of their season, that can be challenging because as the workload goes up, our calories need to go up as well so we can fuel our bodies. And if you're having poor workout nutrition, that just means you're finishing all of these long sessions in this energy deficit. Over time, even though you are eating after your sessions, perhaps even healthily, despite what you're doing during the workouts, you're going to end up in an energy deficit. That energy deficit becomes a real problem later as you try to figure out, how do I start to put together good workouts when every time you start for a workout, when you used to have glycogen to get you to 2 hours, now it's only an hour and a half, and it continues. Now it's only an hour. Now it's only 40 minutes, and you're still putting up the same 3.5 hour workout. That means more time and more stress on your body from a fueling perspective. And if you've got a poor fueling plan in place, it means that you're really going to be in trouble long term. Another option here, the minimal re-entry window. This means that you just didn't take the time to get back into it. You just went right to it. You were like, oh, my race is in 6 weeks. I got to go. And you're in that sort of rush scenario. Think about rushing to the airport to catch a plane. Hurry up, get a taxi. Hurry up, jump on a train. That's when you jump on the wrong train. That's when you get on the taxi at the wrong terminal. That's when you get on a taxi, leave your iPhone behind. Like whatever it may be, like that stress does not bring more value to your racing experience. In fact, it sets you back. And so understanding what your season parameters look like so you can start appropriately, get that re-entry work in, so important. And last but not least, there's a sort of social mechanism, whether it's Strava or with your teammates, this concept of, hey, I got to keep the streak alive, or I got to make the numbers go up. I got to get faster and better every time. You can't be a hero in every session, and no individual session and no individual discipline, as I mentioned earlier, should be the signal of success for your year. Great races, great performances, great epic experiences, those define your year. Everything else is just a tool to get you to that place. And just like any tool, there's times when you need to pick it up and use it, times when you need to put it down and not use it, use something else. And managing your season and having your flexibility, even inside yourself with your incentives and your motivation, really important. The same thing that motivates you in the beginning of the season might not be the same thing that motivates you later. Not changing those incentives or that alignment can also be a compounding factor for you in terms of trouble. Let's talk a little bit about the different types of people who run into this trouble, because these are my favorite. I always like to come up with a couple options for you. The classic one here is the procrastinator. The procrastinator comes out and says, oh, don't worry about it. We'll be fine. I don't need to start training now. I know everyone else is training now. It's January. My race is in July. I'll start in February or March, or maybe April, because by then I can be outside. So I'll wait till April. Well, you've just taken like 3 full months off the calendar of actual training. And that's where things get in trouble, because now you really force yourself in a place where you can't do reentry, and you're going to have to really hit that ramp rate pretty hard, which again is a massive setup for problems in your season. Next up, faked out fit. I'm a fan or aligned with the procrastinator. Faked out fit is, I'm doing great. I remember last time I rode my bike, I was super fast and strong. Of course, the asterisk on that statement is the last time you rode your bike and were super fast and strong was like 4 months ago. You're no longer super fast and strong. You're going to have to build that back. And the folks who deceive themselves and think I'm fit enough and I'll be fine, they actually set themselves up for a really tough spot in the season, because that reconciliation will eventually happen. They'll push the numbers until they realize they can't keep pushing those numbers over time. Their body will push back. Typically, there's some sort of overuse injury, problem, pushback, and then there's adaptation, and then there's recalibration to get back. All of that costs you time to get ready for your race. And again, that puts you in the same position as a procrastinator, where now you're trying to cram stuff into time. When we're cramming, we're just not at our best from a decision-making perspective or from a fitness accumulation perspective. Next up, we have the tortured tortoise. This is super fun. The tortured tortoise, this is like the opposite of the last two I talked about. The tortured tortoise signs up for a race next year and starts training that same day for that race next year. This athlete has a huge training plan. They've got like a horizon's worth of workouts. They know everything they're doing for the next 720 days, and they're going to follow it, and they're going to go through it. And that is what success is, which is just following this plan and doing all of this work. Again, the very minimalist ESR structure that I showed you earlier allows you to be flexible in your season. We have more adaptations inside the team in terms of specificity, swim camp, other modalities to help you stay focused and engaged without that long-term 24-week build-up to your race or 32-week build-up to a race. No one should be building 32 weeks to a race. That's a jail sentence as far as I'm concerned. That's a problem. So don't be a tortoise. And by tortoise, not to say that being deliberate is a problem, but really being pedantic and not being dynamic with your training structure. Again, from a positioning perspective, like I talked about at the beginning, this tortoise option puts you in a really bad position long-term. And last but not least, the copycat. These are my favorite. These are the athletes who just do whatever someone else is doing for the workouts. They show up and they say, "Oh, are you riding today as well? What are you doing?" They tell me you're doing. So I'm just going to jump in with you. Or like, "Oh, what are you? I saw you're going to the track. Oh, come on over. What are we running today?" 10 by 800 sounds great. I'll do that. And they're very happy to be social. They're very happy to mirror what someone else is doing, but they're not actually creating a cohesive buildup to their race. Of course, I'm all about being social. There's nothing wrong with having a couple sessions that either dovetail or you run your own workout at the track while your friend runs another workout, but you're both at the track, catching up with each other, etc. That works. But like literally copy pasting in from individuals, particularly differentials, different individuals. Hey, I'm going to swim with Jane on Fridays, but I'm going to bike with Bob on Saturday. I'm going to run with Sue on Sundays. And they're all different athletes, all different races, all different goals. That really, again, keeps you fit, keeps you active, really high index on the social scale, very low index on the actual evolution of your performance scale because you're just following everyone else's lead.
Endurance Nation.
Product of the week is our Race Saver bag. Stay cooler, race faster. Have you ever been in a race? You pass an aid station and then you can't wait for the next aid station. As a runner, you're just craving it. Even though they're only a mile apart on the road, it seems that each one is getting further and further apart. What if you could take the ice that you had at that last aid station and carry it with you? Not in a cup, not clinking around, but in a handy bag on your wrist. That, my friends, is the Race Saver bag. It takes advantage of your physiology where your body generates a protein that actually signals to your brain that you're cooling off. It happens in the core of your hand. Professional athletes use this, and now you can too. Can't race in the heat without managing your core temperature, and now you can. It's the Race Saver bag, and you can find it online at www.mile18inc.com/race-saver. That's mile18inc.com/race-saver, all one word. You can get your bag now. Hey, get two. Share one with your friend or your loved one so you make sure they also have the race of their life. You don't slow down, and you make everyone else jealous out there on the race course. Get a Race Saver.
For more information about Endurance Nation, visit us online at endurancenation.us. The provided music is from the Podshow Podsafe Music Network. Check it out at music.podshow.com.